Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and if you're watching this video the day it came out, it is the 5th anniversary of our friend, the PlayStation 5. Yes, the PlayStation 5 launched on November 12th, 2020. And as this shirt will remind you, don't ever travel to 2020. It was a bad year. However, yeah, the system is actually 5 years old. And we're going to talk all about it, the last year that it's had, maybe a little projection on its future, etc. I've also already done this year for the Xbox Series X, which was kind of a depressing endeavor, but whatever, we talked about it. So now we're going to do that for the PS5. And before we do that, though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all my social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. I appreciate the support on those platforms. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. So if you're new to this, well, I've got the nice mic out, by the way, because this is just a discussion video and we're not really showing anything. This is just here for the pretties. Yeah, we're just going to kind of talk about the last year. I talked about this a bit in my Xbox video, but like I used to really look forward to these videos. The reason I started doing them so long ago was I was genuinely excited every year for like, here's all the big hits on this console. I think I started doing this with like the Wii U back in the day. And I just wanted to talk about what that last year had been like. I like to talk about some of the marketing decisions that were made, how the system was doing, etc., and like what stuff I was excited about. But I was also approaching it from the model of a traditional console gamer where the stuff I got excited about was the stuff that made me need this machine, the exclusive stuff, the interesting stuff. And this generation in particular has really proven that like that's gone. Like nobody really cares about that anymore. Sony isn't nearly as guilty as Microsoft is of that. Microsoft's open policy is exclusives are dead. Like they are not hiding it anymore. They don't care. They will occasionally get stuff that doesn't appear on the PlayStation 5, but they just don't care anymore if it's only available on their console. They're like, yeah, put it on PC, put it anywhere. We don't care. As you guys know, one of the biggest news stories of this year regarding the PlayStation is the fact that Halo is now going to be appearing there. Something I predicted 4 years ago. You guys can see it in the previous video because that's not the point of this one. But I sit there and I look at like what Sony has done over the last year as far as its console exclusives, and there's not too many that are meaningful. Like we're talking Lost Soul aside, which is from a console perspective exclusive to them, but it's available on PC, and who knows where it'll go down the road. Death Stranding 2, which was obviously a Hideo Kojima's big thing, but Death Stranding 1 did eventually make it to PC and Xbox, and it's Hideo Kojima, so you never really know what he's going to do. But it probably will end up on the Xbox and PC eventually. And then Ghosts of Yotoi, which, again, for now, that's a Sony Direct one. That's the one they actually made, like, in-house. That is PlayStation 5 exclusive. That's, like, the big one. But Ghost of Tsushima did eventually end up on PC as well. However, not Xbox. So we can be relatively sure that that will stay on this side of the aisle as far as PlayStation hardware. But much like the original Ghost of Tsushima, it will probably get reissued with a texture update and blah, 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 blah for PS6. So not even really exclusive to this particular system. Which is another thing. Like this generation, man, we have been now conditioned to really be like, well, when the game comes out, don't buy it. Wait, because they're going to reissue it with DLC and patches, sometimes physically, like Avatar. There was a Ubisoft made an Avatar game. I think it came out like last year or whatever. And now to coincide with the new movie, which, hello, there's apparently an Avatar 3 coming out. I haven't seen a single commercial for it, but I know it's coming in December this year, next month. To coincide with that, Ubisoft's reissuing that game at a budget price with all the DLC and patches, even on disc, to their credit. And you just go like, what is the incentive of buying new games anymore? Microsoft is telling me not to buy them because they're going to put them on Game Pass. Sony, not as guilty, but they are telling me like, any major game we do, get it on our next console instead, because then it'll come with all the cool stuff built in that we didn't have there originally. And you're just like, it's like every game you want now, you're better off waiting till literally the next generation until it's like, okay, it's reissued with all the cool stuff. Even my beloved Shenmue is guilty of this. Shenmue 3, I'm actually encouraging this one, but Shenmue 3, which was a big PS4 exclusive, is now going to be coming to the PS5, the Xbox, even Switch hardware, as well as PC, although it was already on PC. And I think PS4 is even getting the update with new content and, well, not new DLC, but like bug fixes and patches and game changes. I'm very much okay with that one. But the point is, games, there's like kind of no reason to get them right away, which is kind of a bad thing to constantly condition your target audience to know. But anyway, so it's the PlayStation 5. The last year with it, aside from those games and all that sort of stuff and general trends, hasn't been that interesting. Like, we got some cool speakers, but the probably the meatiest thing to even really discuss was the PS5 Pro. So the PS5 Pro did launch last year, but the tail end, and now that it's been a full year, we kind of have a sense of how well it actually did. Here's the interesting thing about the PS5 Pro. It was apparently originally designed to co-launch with GTA 6. Okay, that did not pan out too well because GTA 6 is not coming to PC, at least not initially. It may take over a year before that happens. So the idea was whichever console had the superior hardware would have the definitive edition of GTA 6. So Sony really was like, yep, we got to do this. We got to have a system that really, takes advantage of it. And then of course GTA 6 is GTA 6, so it keeps getting delayed for various reasons. And so it's whatever at this point. So they couldn't do the bundle. Maybe they'll still do that when it actually happens. I don't really know. But at this point, you're almost looking to the inevitability that there's going to be a GTA 6 like next gen bundle for obviously like what I was just describing with, with the PS6 and if Xbox even does another traditional local hardware console. But you look at the actual PS5 Pro, the product they gave us, and it launched for $800. It was $799 without a disc drive. You had the option of buying a disc drive for an additional $79.99. So basically for $780 plus tax, you could get that console with a disc drive. And it didn't even come with like the little plastic base like this one has. And you're just like, bruh. And so that was already bad enough. Then this summer, thanks to be fair, not Sony's fault, a series of incidents, geopolitical related and somewhat domestic political related, economic related, they had no choice but to raise the price of the console. So I think, I'm not actually sure off the top of my head, but I think the PS5 Pro is now like $770 plus the disc drive at that point, etc. So it only got more expensive. Now, what does that mean? It means it's sold poorly. Interestingly, because Sony is used to success when it comes to the PlayStation brand, like they're used to their system selling over 100 million units, etc., which is very unique. Like nobody else really has the ability to say that. Even Nintendo can't say that. But that they may not do that with this system. But at this point in its life, the PS5 is lagging behind the PS4 in lifetime sales, and the PS5 Pro was sort of an attempt to kind of inject some sales into it. So after a year on the market, how did the PS5 Pro do? Well, these numbers are slightly out of date, but we don't get them every week or anything. You get them every few months, like every quarter. So the last quarterly update I believe we got was in September, and the lifetime sales of the PlayStation 5 is like just over 80 million. Do you know how much the PS5 Pro accounts for that? One. It counts for about 1 million sales. So 79 million or so sales of the PlayStation 5 are the original version of the system or the slim version. So that isn't really a great sign. And if I was in Sony's position, I would question whether or not we should continue to do this Pro concept in the future. But I would also be like, maybe we just can't sell a console for that much money. And it'll be interesting to see what that turns the PS6 into. And PS6, like, again, this is a rumor mill, but there was and so I normally wouldn't give it much credit, except Xbox's Sarah Bond even kind of talked about it, which gives it a little bit of credibility. But the suggestion, and this is all take with a grain of salt, all rumor mill, is that the PS6 may retail for around $600, where the new Xbox may retail for around $1,200 as some sort of premium, like Rolls-Royce version of a console. And that almost makes sense, because if you saw my Xbox video that I just did, Xbox is, the people running it are living in a bubble of delusion, and money is irrelevant. So it's easy to see, and they don't care how the hardware actually performs. So it's like, okay, that's fine, whatever, do it. Sony is a tad more grounded in reality and needs the hardware to do well, and the PS5 Pro has probably taught them there is a ceiling. There is a specific numerical, psychological ceiling in which people will not pay for a toy, essentially, a piece of entertainment. Now, I've told this story before, so I'm not going to tell it in extensive detail, but when it comes to economic downturn, times like the Great Depression or the recession, back in '08, or even now where everything is not depressed, but everybody is hurting just because inflation is rampant, et cetera, globally. And things are just more generally expensive. In that type of environment, entertainment is considered escapism. And when you feel like your escapism is also trying to eat your lunch, you kind of crack a little, and you certainly don't support it. And Sony, unlike Microsoft, needs the PlayStation to be successful. So it would not shock me to hear that they're like, okay, PS6 is going to be, $600. And $600 is not the value that it was even when this system launched 5 years ago at the same price. But while that's technically less money in the value of the dollar, with inflation juxtaposed to basically the purchase power of the dollar, how much people think they can actually get for that amount of money, it almost feels the same, if not even worse, ironically. Basically, money is cheaper than it has ever been, yet people have less and less of it anyway. Economics is complicated. So we'll see how that actually pans out, but that's all just rumor mill stuff. So back to the actual PS5. Dude, I wish I had more to say. Like, if you saw my Xbox Series X video, like, I'm not as dour on the PS5 this year as I was on the Xbox, because that one truly had nothing going for it as far as what made it a special piece of hardware or special piece of entertainment. At least the PS5 has a handful of exclusives that are interesting, but it is objectively bizarre that the most engaging story about this platform this year is the fact that Halo is coming to it, when it won't be exclusive, of course. It's just I sit there and I think of this as an older gamer, right? So I said this in my Xbox video as well, but I'm just used to two companies duking it out head to head, and that being interesting, then each one trying to win you over with exclusive content you can only get on their platform, and that's what makes their system special and worth having. And we now live in a time where there's three of these guys: Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. Microsoft is openly saying that's over. We don't care about any of that. Everybody take our games. We don't care. Okay. And then you have Nintendo saying, we're not a competitor for anybody. We're going to sit in our corner. We have our special little system. You can come play it. It's got some of that Nintendo stuff that's exclusive, which is nice. But we're not really trying to compete head to head with everybody else. We recognize our hardware can't do it. We'll have watered down versions of some of the games, etc. But we're in our own corner. So you have Sony kind of sitting there trying to behave like a traditional game console. They're the only one trying to do that. But at the same time, without the drive of direct competition, they're not doing a very good job of it. They're not, and it's not entirely their fault. I mean, a lot of economic stuff is not their fault. But at the same time, their internal games like Ghosts of Yotoi, you're talking about multi-year development cycles that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And so they can't pump one of those out every few months. This is a completely different era. And it's just kind of weird to see them kind of go in the traditional model and failing at it, even when they have nothing up against them. And if nothing up against them is essentially why they're failing at it. You guys following me? So I don't know, man. I genuinely miss being able to sit here and talk about all the great exclusives and cool things that happened in the last year of any given console. But that has just not been the case with these two for the last year. And it's not exactly a populist statement, or it is a populist statement. It is not exactly a shocking statement to say that we're all pretty disappointed with the way this generation of game consoles has gone. You hear that we're most of the way through it, and people look at specifically their Xbox Series X collection, and their PS5 collection and notice how small it is, and notice how few things on it really resonated and mattered, especially when, as I said at the beginning of this video, most of them end up on different platforms or get definitive editions and all the DLC and patches. And we now, again, are trained to expect these games to appear better on other places. It's like this, it's like really short-sighted on these companies' parts to be like, well, we're going to release our game. It's our big game. It's coming out. And then, well, we'll release it later again with all the best stuff in it, with all the patches and the DLC. It's like, it's cannibalistic, and you get away with that every once in a while, sure. But like, we've got The Last of Us now on 3 separate generations of PlayStation hardware. And like, would any of us even be surprised if PS6 launched with like The Last of Us double pack definitive edition or something like that? You can already envision it. Like you see it. Death Stranding double special packaged edition, like, it's not even surprising anymore. But what is surprising is when we get something that is unique and is exclusive, because of how rare that is. And even then, like, I poked holes in those 3 that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. It's like, none of them are really, truly qualifiers of that. So I don't know, man. Maybe it's just the model is changing. And this is I said this in my Xbox video, but like, the model that I grew up on, that I was used to and that I admire and I want to see more of, is being put out to pasture. And part of these 2 videos, if you watch them in tandem, is really just me coming to terms with that. Like, I've been predicting it forever, but now it's like, it's actually kind of here, and you're just like, well, okay, screw it, I guess, but yeah. But beyond that, I'm not saying the console's bad, and I'm sure that's the takeaway some people will have, because whatever, it's just what people are going to think. But the console itself is still good. I still enjoy it. It's still got good content on it. I'm not actually starving for games. I'm clearly not starving at all. But like, I sit back as the older gamer, and I think about some random console. Like, if you guys know me, if you watch this channel regularly, when a video game console hits like an interesting marker, like the NES just hit the 40th anniversary, at least in North America, a few weeks ago. This summer, the Virtual Boy hit its 30th anniversary, etc. I like to do these videos where we go back and talk about them. Last year I did the PSP and the PS1, the PS2, even the Vita, etc. I covered a bunch of these things. And it's fun to sit there because you visualize a specific console, and a bunch of games will come to your mind that were like, this is the place to play those unique gaming experiences and everything they meant to you. And I sit there and I try to mentally do that with the Xbox Series X or the PS5, and it's just milquetoast. It's just the same games over and over because nothing about them actually stands out. And when we get to that point, like, assuming I'm still making videos in a few years, we'll get to like the 10th anniversary of these systems, and maybe they're not the main ones anymore, depending on when the new ones launch, etc. And I'm like, let's go back and talk about those. Like, I did this for the PS4 and the Xbox One. When they both turned 10, they were no longer the relevant systems of either manufacturer. And I was like, let's talk about their whole history. Let's talk about some of the games that come to mind. And you could still do it then, even if it was getting a little harder, especially in Xbox's case. But in the case of these, like admittedly, PS5 is less guilty of it than the Xbox is. But you're just like, people are going to look back and be like, I don't remember anything special about any of those systems because everything that came out across the board and was reissued multiple times, to the point where, again, if you are an early investor of any of these games, the only thing you get out of it is like, well, I got to play it early, But everybody else who waits, who has incentivized to not give these companies their money, sorry, I hit the mic there, is incentivized not to give the companies their money, is rewarded with cheaper, more complete editions of the games. It just seems so self-sabotaging. And it feels like it has to culminate at some point in some sort of bubble of some kind I'm not saying gaming, it is a common thing when you talk about the negatives of gaming economics for people to be like, oh, there's going to be a video game crash like 1983. I'm not saying that. I mean, who knows? But I'm certainly not making that claim. But I'm just saying, like, this is going to come to a head at some point where, like, people are just fed up and there's going to be some sort of change. I don't know what it is. I don't know when it is, but it seems inevitable to me. You know, if you're looking for a unique gaming experience, you kind of have to look to Nintendo currently. And even them, they are really guilty of like just dogging physical media. I didn't really touch on this in my Xbox video. Maybe I should have, but you know, Xbox is like basically out when it comes to physical media. Sony is like oddly the last custodian of it. Like they basically allow anybody who wants to make PS5 games to have them physically, which is nice. And they're a little bit more complete, usually, not in all cases, but I mean, that's for now. You know, who knows what the PS6 brings. I maintain that I think the PS6 will probably launch diskless with the option of a disk drive. Although, to be fair, the terrible sales of the PS5 Pro may change that. We'll find out in time. But yeah, I don't know, man. It just sucks. Like I wanted to sit here and like, I'm nostalgic for my own videos at that point. I want to sit here and have a conversation with you guys where we're just talking about all the fun stuff we did over the last year. And I genuinely can't do it. I can't do it because these guys did not offer it to me to be able to talk to you about it. And that kind of sucks. And juxtaposed with the irony that they actually have a lot of good stuff on them. They're just not special. Like there was a time where you needed to have multiple consoles so that you could have all the gaming experiences and you could be that kid on the playground who's like, yeah, I got a Super Nintendo. Yeah, I got a Sega Genesis. I know what Sonic and Mario are about. I got both, you know. There's like almost no reason to have both platforms. It's like it boils down to like which controller you like better at this point. Which, by the way, I'm going to give it to the PS5 on the controller aspect. Although I like the UI of the Xbox better, but that's maybe because we've been using the same one for a decade. I don't know. Anyway, that's enough of that. So we'll see where this all goes. Guys, please tell me what you think of any of this. How are you feeling about it? This holiday season, are you going to try? That's one other thing. Like, I tried to find new versions of the Xbox Series X. I had a hard time doing it. The Series S I could find relatively easily, but like brand new stock, Best Buy seemed to have them. Amazon did not. Now that may be a temporary thing. PS5s you can still get, but more so the Slim, not really the OG one. But I don't know, man. Is anybody out there like, oh, cool, I'm going to try and get one of these this winter, or is everybody going in on Switch too? You know? I don't know. Anyway, just curious on everybody's thoughts. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this. Please do me a favor, like the video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all the social media stuff in the description. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. I appreciate the support on all those platforms. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.